Okay, I'm Harold Bell, and sorry about that technical mix up there. But anyway, this is Zoom Sunday and Speak the Truth. We got an outstanding panel of folks here with us today. And what I want to start out, I want Jackie start out introducing several of the guests who have been with us before. Let's introduce your guest, Jackie.
Jackie's got
Unmute.
So used to already being unmuted. Afternoon, everybody. We'll start with Al Strane, who hails from Oakland, California. His baseball roots include a 4-year scholarship as a varsity middle infielder at the University of Santa Clara. He spent 2 years with the Seattle Pilots and Milwaukee Brewers Midwest Minor League Organization. He's a member of the Oakland, California Babe Ruth Hall of Fame and is a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity and is currently the state of Georgia representative for the Phoenix Bats.
Okay. Gary, who are your guests?
I'm going to introduce John Hollins, former president of the 100 Black Men in DeKalb County in Atlanta, Georgia, coach of Atlanta Braves RBI youth baseball team, selected as a community hero by CBS affiliate TV channel 46. John also threw out the first pitch for the late Hank Aaron at the stadium named for the Slugger.
Okay. What about CJ? Is CJ here?
CJ's not here.
Okay.
So I can do CJ's if you want.
Okay, yeah, please do DJ.
Yes, CJ's going to introduce Mr. Robert Mitchell, who grew up in Atlanta's 4th Ward, the park where the Milwaukee Braves played, and he could walk to the stadium from his home. His first job was with the Braves, working in the bottle room where the team refrigerated Coca-Cola soft drinks. The workers were allowed to shag fly balls when the pitchers took batting practice. That hooked him on baseball. He also played throughout the South as a teenager and pitched against some of the Negro League players late in their careers. His baseball highlight was pitching against the Indianapolis Clowns, losing 5-3. He was 17 years old. He spent 11 years as a head coach at Morehouse College, and he is happily retired at the nearest golf course.
Okay. Let's see who else do we have here.
I'll take Rodney Smith.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, babe.
He was 15 years old when he played for the Atlanta Yankees and 16 when he played for the Rockdale Rawhides. At 17, he signed with the San Francisco Giants. After being released in 1962, he signed on to play with the Satchel Paige All-Stars in 1963. In 1964, he signed with the Atlanta Cardinals, and that was home until 1989. His brother, son, and grandson all played professional baseball.
Right. Okay. We got, see Harold Harvey is here. Harold, why don't you introduce yourself?
I have to introduce myself, bro. You guys all know me.
Well, tell us in case there's somebody here that don't know you.
Author of the Duke of 18th and Vine, Bob Kendrick Pitches Negro League Baseball. I grew up in Macon, Georgia, played for the West Side Braves as a youngster, played college baseball at Fort Valley State and at Tuskegee Institute, was a perennial player in the NCAA playoffs for a Black college team back in the 1970s. That was a rarity. I write for Black College Nines, an online news magazine that keeps keep contact with Black college baseball, trying to extol the attributes of those players and to give them the spotlight that they need to hopefully gain the attention that will put them into the next level. A member of the College Baseball Writers Association, and also a member of the College Baseball Hall of Fame Pioneers Committee. But we are tasked with looking at baseball players from 1800 up to 1975 to see who should be inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame as a result of something someone else recently mentioned, the fact that the statistics are just not there for players who played in the 1880s up to 1975. So my committee is tasked with finding out as much as we can about players who played during that era and getting them inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay. Vaughn, introduce yourself. Vaughn Joshua?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The Vaughn Joshua. Go ahead. Vaughn, you got to unmute.
Get on mute.
Good.
Unmute yourself, Vaughn. Unmute. We can't.
Lower left-hand corner.
Okay.
There he is.
Can you
He's
hear
up.
me now?
Okay.
Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
So you just want me to tell about myself, or what? What's am I supposed to say?
It's who
Hey, Doug.
who is Vaughn Joshua? Go ahead, Vaughn.
Oh, well, I was born and raised in Oakland. Also, only thing I could really say is I played 10 years in the major leagues. Actually, one good moment was I played with Hank Aaron his last year in '76. So that was very interesting. I played in the World Series, and geez, I played for the Dodgers, the Giants, Milwaukee, and San Diego. Like I said, for 10 years, and that's about it.
All right, that sounds good.
That's a whole lot.
All right, Maggie, introduce our next guest, man.
Yeah, I got two first, don't I? I got two good friends that are on today. Phil Dixon, who was on a couple of weeks ago. Has it been 2 weeks already? Yeah, that's right. There was the Super Bowl that my team lost in, but that's okay. Phil Dixon has covered African-American baseball for over, now he says 40 years. He needs to correct that bio. He's written numerous books. You know, he is an international speaker, has appeared nationally on numerous networks, including PBS, C-SPAN, BET, Fox Sports, Sirius XM, and the Canadian Broadcasting System. And Phil is an international speaker and one of the co-founders for the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, where he served as the museum's first public relations director. He was formerly in the public relations department with the Kansas City Royals. And then my friend, Bob Kendricks, who was just on the front page of that book that Michael Harvey held up. Bob is basically the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum, and he was named in 2011, but that was actually his second trot around because he initially started with NLBM as a volunteer during his 10-year newspaper career with the Kansas City Star. And, you know, he was always wonderful to me whenever I called and said, Bob, I need this, I need that, whatever. But in 2006, the Greater Kansas City Black Chamber of Commerce awarded him the Marilona Diversity Award, and he was named Citizen of the Year by Omega Phi Psi Group. And then he was named one of the 100 most influential African Americans in Greater Kansas City in January 2014. And he's in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame because he played basketball in Park City, Missouri, which a lot of people have never even heard of. But, you know, that's a long time older college there. He's a native. We got another Georgian on here from Crawfordville, Georgia. And Kendrick received a basketball scholarship to Park College in Parkville, Missouri. And in 1980, he earned his BA. Both of these men are very good friends, and boy, do they know some baseball. And Bob's got some exciting, and I mean exciting news to talk about that was just announced yesterday concerning the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Gary, can you run that clip on Bob?
Hold on, you forgot one more. Robert Mitchell.
Oh, Robert. Wait, okay, where's Robert? Okay, Robert. I'm sorry, Robert. Unmute yourself.
I was going to say, no, he is muted.
Okay, I thought Gary had introduced Robert.
Already been introduced.
Go ahead, Robert. Do it over again, then.
I don't know what to say, really.
Okay.
Other than I started playing baseball at approximately 8 years old, playing stickball in the backyard. Eventually, around 11 years old, I started working at the baseball park in Atlanta called Ponce de Leon. It was where the Atlanta Brave affiliate played, the Atlanta Crackers. I worked there in the bottle room. I ended up in the outfield shagging balls for the pitchers when they hit. So I just got hooked from that point on. I've coached baseball for about 20 years prior to going to Morehouse. And I coached 18 years over there, retired, and now all I do is play golf.
All right, I thought we heard.
Right.
Okay. All right, Gary, hit that clip with Bob, please.
I don't have that clip. While you all talking, I can go find it. Is this the clip?
Right. That's all right. Let's go. Let's keep it going. Bob Kendricks, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today, man. And congratulations on all the great work that you've been doing when it comes to the Negro League Museum. Tell us, Bob. I don't know if many of us were able to hear Howard Bryant. What really was going down as far as Major League Baseball bringing the Negro League in as a partnership. Tell us about the pros and cons of that, Bob.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Howard called me the day of the announcement, and he wanted me to be aware of what his position was. Howard and I have been friends for quite some time, and I knew that he had this kind of counter position as it related to this, and I certainly understand his position. I had to kind of step outside of myself. When I first was privy to what baseball was planning, I got in a little bit of a defiant position myself because, and I'm sure Phil can attest to this, he knew so many of these players. I knew so many of these players. They were so proud. These were very proud men. And they were never seeking validation from anyone. They knew how good they were. They knew how good their league was. And really, guys, the major leaguers knew how good they were. So they were never seeking validation. But I literally had to step outside of myself and stop looking at it from the inside out and look at it from the outside in terms of what this meant in the annals of American history. As an institution, the Negro League Baseball Museum, while we're here to preserve and celebrate and educate and illuminate a wonderful piece of baseball in Americana, our overarching goal is to one day rewrite the pages of American history books to include this chapter. And essentially what Major League Baseball did in one day was rewrite the pages of American history books by rewriting its own history. But I think all of us who are baseball fans know how closely the history of this country aligns with the history of this sport. And if you know the history of baseball, you in essence know the history of this country. The Negro Leagues are a very important part of the history of the game and the history of this nation. And so for them to get that acknowledgement in a historical perspective, it did mean something. And, it wasn't about validating them, but it was this acknowledgement about what this league represented both on and off the field. And we have a tendency to look at it more from the standpoint of what they did to overcome the adversity. It's so easy sometimes to dwell on the adverse aspect of what segregation meant, not in baseball, but to us overall. And we don't focus on the adversity. We focus on what they did to overcome the adversity. You won't let me play with you, I create my own. And so this story is triumphant in nature. And these stories have to be touted. Now, the one concern, and Howard shared this with me, is we don't want to see history watered down. I don't want 20, 30 years from now, somebody to see all these names listed together and think that it's always been that way when it wasn't. It's important that we maintain an understanding the fact that they didn't want to play in the Negro Leagues. They had to play in the Negro Leagues, but they also had the ingenuity and the entrepreneurial spirit to create their own league. And that's important for us to maintain that even as we look at the game 20, 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Harold.
Back off that, Phil Dixon, piggyback off that.
Yeah, one thing that concerns me, even listening to the little clip from Howard Bryant today, is that, I'm concerned about the statistics, how accurate they are, because first of all, I know that there's a lot of guesstimation going in there because I've been crunching these numbers for years. And just a simple one, just to show you how this thing gets. They mentioned about 3,400 players. But now just think about this. You got 8 teams. On an average, you got 20 players on a team, all right? So you take that 8 teams, 20 players, you got 160 players, right? 1 year. So many of these players are going to reappear again. But if you take that 160 players, right? You multiply it by 7 leagues, you only come up with 1,120 players. So the math isn't even correct on the press release. So I have a lot of problems, and I will continue to address those problems. And I'm probably one of the few people who actually released a statistical work on the Negro Leagues. And I think there's some better things that can be done to bring these men's true ability and this legacy to light, other than just merging the statistics, which don't tell a good story for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
John Hollins.
Well, I tell you guys, first of all, I am happy to be able to be on this call with 3 of my heroes, and I say that full-heartedly. And I tell you that Ron Smith, Bert Strane, and Robert Mitchell are 3 guys that I've honored for years. And you know, I speak about Rodney Smith because I didn't see him play, but I heard that he was one of the best hitters of all time. And when I think about Robert Mitchell, I had the opportunity to see him play. And Bert Strane is 72 years old, who works with my hitters in my RBI program, has one of the best arms right now at 72 than a lot of people have at 22. And so one of the myths that people don't talk about, and that is that everybody in the major leagues are the best players that are out there. I know for a fact that that's not necessarily true. So when you talk about bringing the stats in from the Negro Leagues and combining them with the major leagues, for me, I kind of take a step back because I think personally that the Negro Leagues were greater than the major leagues. And just as when they put Jackie Robinson in the major leagues, it destroyed the Negro Leagues because it created a mindset that he had gone to someplace better, that in reality, he had actually taken a step down. I think that the Negro Leagues should stand on their own. Now, no disrespect to Joshua, because he's a great player. But when I tell you that Ron Smith, Robert Mitchell, and Bert Strane should have been major league players. And I have the pleasure, and I want Ron Smith to speak, I have the pleasure of batting in front of Ron Smith when I was a player and he was an umpire. I hit a ball 502 feet. The reason why I know it was 502 feet, because the fence was 505. Now, when I tell people that, they don't believe it, but he was the home plate umpire and he saw it. And there are a lot of guys out there that were good enough to play at the next level, but because of the politics that you deal with, and it's even greater now, a lot of black ball players are not given the opportunity. So when you take the statistics, whether they're right or not, and try to combine that with Major League Baseball, I think once again, they're trying to take away from what we do have, and that is in Missouri, the Negro League Hall of Fame. Don't take that away. Don't start trying to combine our stats to Major League stats, because we are happy having our own museum, having our own home, and being our own people, because what you have there is totally different. And if Ron can have a minute to talk, I would love to hear him, because, you know, he stopped playing not because of his ability, but because he decided that it was time for him not to play again. And if I'm wrong, he can say that, but this is one of the best baseball players to ever live, in my opinion, based on some very good opinions of people who saw him play.
All right, everybody's gonna get a chance to talk. Let's go to Bert. Bert, come on in here. Bert Strane, come on in. Before I get to the other twin. Bert?
Sir,
Okay.
how you doing, gentlemen? Boy, it's truly a pleasure here. And when I heard the gentleman, Howard Bryan, speak, my blood started boiling, because as a former scout, and I can tell this to Von, we all grew up in Oakland. As a former scout, we got 5 tools we look at. We look at speed, arms, hitting with power, and fielding. Now, you can't tell me, and see, this may sound real racist. When I'm 73, not 72, I normally can say anything I want. I don't care what you think about what I said. That's what it is.
My man.
Bottom line, with those tools, go to the Negro League and start picking players. They ran faster. They had better arms. They hit with more power, all that other stuff. But yet and still, our numbers are not there. Our numbers are not there because that's what it was. But as far as quality of players, and like the gentleman saying at 8 years old, he shagged for the guys playing in AAA or wherever that affiliate was. Well, at 8 years old, me and my brother shagged for Curtis, Flood, Tommy Harper, Jesse Gunner, Frank Robinson, Vader Pinson, Pumpsy Green, Jesse, all those guys were from the same neighborhood. And Vaughn knows this. We stand out there all day, didn't get nothing for it, but we were there with them. You follow me? So if that was any indication, I know they didn't play in the Negro League, but they were right at when Jackie Robinson went in. So I can tell you for a fact, from my opinion, we were the best players. Just didn't give us a big league uniform because we were the best players. Forget the dumb stuff. And John Hollins attested this. We had this conversation this week. And again, it may sound racist, but we grew up in Oakland. And you didn't go anywhere outside of Oakland and played against a white team and got beat. You never did. You had to be 10 times as good. And our dad told us, if you wasn't, don't come back and tell me nothing. Don't lose. And that mentality has left us over the years, period. And you got the best athletes in Georgia right now. That's all I got to say.
All right, Al. Al, come on in, Al. The twin, Al Strane. Come on in, Al. Pick it up, Al. Unmute yourself.
Well, hey, I tell you, it is really a pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you so much for the invitation. And to see my good friend who I grew up with, Von Joshua, on here is really a treat. Von and I've had a conversation. When Bert talks about talent, fluidity, flexibility, athletic ability, Von told me a story. I said, Von chose to not play with my brother and I. We played on the national championship team in 1966. Von's dad was a principal at school and told Von he wasn't going to play. They're going on vacation. we missed Von. We could have used it, but we won the championship anyway. So when Von and I talk about baseball and how you develop, Von we always used to tell Von was one of these kids that could hit a ball the other way with pop and power, okay? And kids typically are pull hitters. I asked Von, I said, how do you get that technique? He said, well, we used to play kind of strikeout, soft toss in the garage, and if you pulled it, you hit the rim of the garage. So, well, let's say this. The aspect of what's happening right now and the statistics and that sort of thing, and I've been to Cooperstown. I have attempted to get to the museum in Kansas City on twice. I have not gotten there, but Bob and I have talked because he has been so gracious. He is going to have my book that I just published that is going to be in his museum in the retail area. And he has been so gracious about when you talk about baseball and what we have gone through. It is amazing that the Negro Leagues were able to do what they did, okay, and the talent pool, all right, that they had. So I don't think we've got to compromise ourselves relative to the statistics. I think we should respect for what we see and honor those who went before us. And I think that's what's missing with our younger players. I had my grandson that went to an elite camp, and Maury Wills was there. And he came back, he said, Papa, there was this guy there named Wills something. I said, Maury Wills? He said, well, yeah. I said, do you realize who he was and what he did and the talent he had and all the stuff he had to go through? And so we're missing something and not entrenching that with the kids. So it is a pleasure to be with you. I'm not going to carry on. I'll tell you a little bit about my book if that's an opportunity later.
Yeah,
but I'll do that.
Let's go a bit to Vaughn. Vaughn, come on in. Unmute yourself.
Lower left-hand corner.
Can you find it, Vaughn?
Getting his glasses.
Oh, I got, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Pick up.
What do you want? What do you
Go
want me
ahead.
to say?
Everybody's been talking about you. You talk about yourself.
Well, I already told you pretty much my career as the Albert and Alvin said, we all grew up in Oakland. And another thing fortunate thing I had, Veda Pinson was my idol. And he married a girl that lived straight across the street from me. There was 3 sisters, and he married the middle sister. So every time Cincinnati would come into town, all my buddies would come over and sit on the porch and wait for 5 or 6 of the Cincinnati players to come by. But Veda was president of the Oakland Optimist Club, which is a boys club. I was also the president there. Like I said, I patterned most of my game after Veda. I told you, how many years I played, but I've been in professional baseball for 55 years now, as a player and a coach. I coached 4 years. I coached 1 year with Chicago Cubs. I coached 3 years with 3.5 years with the Chicago White Sox, and most of the other years were AAA with the Dodgers, Chicago, both Chicago teams, and let's see, and that's those 3 teams, and 1 year with Toronto. I was a hitting coordinator for Toronto. So like I said, I've been in baseball for 50-something years, and a lot of the things you guys say, it's right on. Because I lived a lot of that stuff, and we talk about the Negro League. Like I said, I played with Hank Aaron his last year. We used to try to get as much information from Hank as we could, but he told us a few things, and I came up in 60. I signed in 67, and things were just starting to change. But I know when I was in the minor leagues, coming through the minor leagues, we played in Shreveport, we played in Little Rock, and some of those places. So we still, at that time in the 60s, we still saw a lot of racism. So I could, and Tommy Davis, who was one of my best friends, a great hitter in the National League, he always told the stories about, when blacks first started, they started letting blacks sit anywhere in the ballpark in Vero Beach. The Dodgers, the Dodgers spring training site, Al mentioned Maury Wills. I was Maury Wills' teammate for 2.5 years. And, Maury, all those guys were older, and all those guys saw a lot more of the racism thing that I did. So all I know mostly about it is the stories that, that they all tell. Dick Allen was my teammate. Let's say Maury Wills. So I had some great teammates, guys to play with, and like older guys, and they showed us how to play the game the right way. And it comes down, as you say. I mean, there's no question that there are a lot of guys in the Negro League would have been a lot better than guys in the major leagues. Like I said, I've been a professional ball for 55 years, and there's some guys that shouldn't even be there. So I can understand what you're saying, but that's pretty much it about my career.
Hey, Vaughn, can you share your story with Michael Jordan as his personal hitting coach?
Okay, so when the year Michael played baseball, I don't know if everybody know, but the commissioner, the basketball commission, went to him, and they didn't want to suspend him because of his gambling. So they said, sit out a year. So he said, and the thing that made it easy for him to play baseball was that Reinsdorf was the owner of the Bulls and the White Sox, and I was the hitting coach for the White Sox's high A team, and Jordan was supposed to play with me. He was supposed to be on my team, and I had like 8 or 9 prospects, big time prospects on my team. So one of the meetings, Buddy Bell, who I'm sure a lot of guys know that name, I said, hey, I'd love to have Michael on my team, but I got all these prospects, and, that would be a distraction. And so they thought about it, and then so they didn't want to send him down to low A ball, so they bumped him up to double A. And that was, so that was his year. And it was, like I say, he was able to do that, because I'm sure if there was another baseball owner, he wouldn't be able to do it other than Ryan Starr. So that's, like I say, a lot of people don't know why he was out of baseball that one year. We couldn't talk about it. We couldn't talk to the reporters. We couldn't say one word about it. And in spring training, when the double A team went on the road, Michael would stay at home. When the A team went on the road, he stayed at home. So they never let him go on the road. And so, like I say, that was an experience. Sometimes I look back and I say, hey, maybe I should have let him be on my team. But I know Terry Francona really paid off for him, because he was our double A manager at the time, and Michael got him his first major league managing job. So, and like I said, I was just fortunate to have, guys like Veda and these guys. Frank was from the neighborhood, but, Frank was Frank, but Veda, Kurt, and all these guys, they made sure that we knew how to play the game the right way. And Joe Morgan went to the same high school I went to. He was a few grades ahead of me. So there's a bunch of other guys that played in the May. Rudy May, there's Larry Lentz, Lee Lacey. Lacey went to McClymonds, but we all grew up together. So I had quite an experience. And like I said, I've been in for this long, and that's all I know is baseball. So, and you're right. And every day, I thank God for Jackie Robinson, and that's a definite fact.
Okay. Robert Mitchell at the top. Come on, Robert. You got to unmute yourself. Anybody having a problem with muting?
Well, the experiences that I've had with the youth is the thing that I'd like to talk about, and how they are not getting what they need in some areas, especially in the inner city. Baseball as it is now, you got to pay to play. Back in the early years, the kids didn't have to pay, or didn't have to pay as much to play. And some of the players that were less talented learned to play from the kids that were more talented. Now, if you don't have a good amount of talent, then you don't get a chance to play. Because most of the coaches now, they get their travel teams, and the only reason a player with less talent plays is that he can pay and he can help take care of some of those expenses that it takes to play. But that right now, that's where it's lacking for our young kids. But that would be, I know the RBI does what it can do, but even the RBI, a lot of the kids that play RBI, they are not kids from the inner city. I would say that that would be an area where we could possibly get more young Black kids into baseball.
Okay. Ron Smith, come on in, Ron. Ron?
Yes, sir.
Come on in.
Yes, sir. I started playing baseball when I was about 12, but I started organized ball, you would say. I played with people like Mac Jones, Don Clendenin. They were a little bit older than I was, but I started at the age of 15 because there were no little league. So I played with those guys. Then I signed with the Giants. Played a couple of years in the minor league with the Giants. Got to be good friends with Willie Mays, which was a great experience. But I think the most fun that I had in baseball was the year that I played with Satchel Paige. I played in 1963 with Satchel Paige on a Barnstorming team. and we traveled throughout the country playing night after night after night. And you talking about a character. Satchel Paige was a character. Plus, he was a pitcher. So that was probably the best year I had in baseball all my life. But I played 25 years on a semi-pro team in Atlanta with the Atlanta Cardinals. And I played along with Robert Mitchell. And we had what was equivalent to probably a AAA team. Guys could play. But during that time, I really believe that Robert Mitchell helped start relief pitching, because most people went 9 innings during those days, but we would always play, and we played up until the last couple of innings, and the guy would go get Robert Mitchell and he would shut it down. That wasn't even going on in the big leagues at that time. But I actually think that he started that. He had a lot to do with it. But I really enjoyed the year that I played with Saxon. I enjoyed the time with Willie Mays. Willie Mays and I became real good friends. As a matter of fact, I used to let him use my car when he came to Atlanta playing against the Braves, and my wife would just drive me out of the house because I would take the car and let him keep it for 3 days. But I really enjoyed the time that I did get a chance to play baseball.
Okay, this closes. I would come up with Michael Harvey before we go back to our special guest. Michael?
Well, I didn't get to play professionally. That was my dream, growing up as a farm boy down in Crawford County, Georgia, in the 1950s, seeing for the first time two Negro Negroes playing in the World Series, Hank Aaron and who was the center fielder? Can't think of him right now, but Burton. Seeing those two guys perform in the 1957 series, I wanted to be a baseball player. God didn't give me the physical attributes, but I played well. And so when we talk about this issue of statistics and Black baseball players being superior at their job, statistics are one thing. They're good to look at to sort of talk about who's the best here or there. But, baseball is all about a thing I heard Hank Aaron say once. And that is, Hank said that baseball gave him a chance to express himself. And that's what baseball did for me. It gave me a chance to express myself. And at Tuskegee, piggybacking on what Ron Smith said, we had probably 12 guys, including me, who could have played professional baseball. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals assigned old Negro Leaguer, former Negro Leaguer, Piper Davis, who played with the Birmingham Black Barons. They assigned him to scout our team. And so every time I would see Piper Davis, I would say, Piper, I'm a utility guy. I'm not going to get in the game until the game's on the line after the 6th inning. You're going to stick around. He said, well, I tell you, son, they only going to allow me to sign one of y'all. So we're a black college. But that was 9 of us, probably 12 of us who could have played professional baseball. But Piper said, they're only going to allow me to sign one of you. If I don't sign you, that was my senior year, go home and find a good industrial league team to play on. If you ain't gotten signed by age 25, go find your job, son. But that was the status of baseball. There were a lot of guys who had the ability to make it to the next level, but the politics of the game, they were only going to allow so many in. And although the Cardinals were good and gracious to scout our team, Piper knew that he couldn't go back in there with a full slate of guys and say, I think we need to take a look at this guy and this guy and this guy. Because that
I want to go, Jack, I want you to come back in, you and Maggie come back and go over to Phil and to Bob and run something else by them before we get out of here. Jackie, you got a question for Phil or Bob?
Well, I guess my real question is I know that there was a stretch where baseball seemed to be losing interest for Black kids, and I'd like to know, how do we pull them back in? The history of this of the game is fascinating, but it's also hard for kids a lot of time when they hear about the indignities and the discrimination that you guys suffered playing the game. And that some people probably still do to some degree. How do you get them to see past that, to see baseball as a sport worth engaging in?
I'd like to address that.
Go ahead.
Well, knowing I'm from the West Coast, this is my second relocation to Atlanta. In California with the Major League Scouting Bureau, Jethro McIntyre, who is my mentor, Vaughn knows him, and also sponsors, we did baseball with the pros for 17 years, free clinics, where you get a young person come out, it's called free. They got gloves, they got everything, they got food, and we taught them how to play. Joe Morgan, Vader would come out, Frank when he was in town. So we did those things so the young brothers could see how this game goes. The problem with baseball, it's not like football and basketball. You can't come out late. You have to have the mechanics. You have to be fundamentally sound. And see, in this sport, you can be the best athlete in the world, but at some point in time, I'm gonna project that you ain't gonna play at another level because you don't have the mechanics. I'm a sticker about that. John knows that, but that's the way we get our guys involved. I know the money thing is real critical here in Georgia because it's $3,500 to $4,200 to play. RBI doesn't charge that. I mean, John runs on a real small budget, but the problem comes in is that these families can't, you have 2 kids cancel Christmas, so they can't do that. So it's our job as former players say, man, I never paid for a hitting lesson. I never paid for running or strength and conditioning lesson. But see, people charge, that's the way of living. Unfortunately, that's what's happening now. But back in the day, you ain't paid nothing for no hitting lesson. Somebody like Frank or Vader say, hey, little man, try this, work on this, do that. You follow me? But right now, because of the money thing, we're losing it. West Coast is really hurting where we're from in Oakland. They don't have the players anymore. The best players in the world right here in Atlanta, Georgia, proper. I mean, you got the baddest boys in the world right here. Call my scout friends back on the West Coast and say, man, you ought to see these cats. They're man-childs. John got a guy named Michael Harris, had to beg Major League Baseball to look at this kid. If he ain't in right field for the Braves before the end of the season, it's a crime. Michael Harris, remember that name. And he's a switch hitter, and they convince him to only hit left. He's a bad boy. He is. So all I'm saying is that the idea about free, being able to get into these kids, show them the beauty of baseball, because baseball is a game of failures. You ain't hitting, you miss 7 out of 10 3-pointers, you sitting on the bench or you at home. You can miss 7 out of 10 baseballs and still make it to the Hall of Fame, 333. So that's a whole different subject. That's all I have. Maybe somebody else want to chime in.
John, you want to pick up on that, John?
Yeah.
I'd love to. I tell you, people like I said before, Ron Smith and Robert Mitchell were mentors of mine. And I kind of got into baseball coaching because one of the scouts in the area was my co-captain at Georgia State University. And I was giving him a hard time about not drafting black ball players. And he said, John, we need more people like you to train them because they don't have the skill set. He said, it's not like the old days. And Robert Mitchell and I have talked about this many times. I don't know if it's because baseball is a game that was handed down from father to son or uncle to kid or what have you, and you don't have that dynamics as strong in the inner city. You have a lot of single parent homes where you can't just walk out at 14 and 15 and say, I want to play baseball. Somebody has had to have thrown a ball to you early in life, have worked with you early in life. You know, I had the pleasure of Gresham Park, where Gresham Park was an inner city program of park ball, and we had rec ball. And at the end of the year, you will put together an all-star team. Now, because of travel ball, if you're not on a travel team, the rec ball programs are so bad that the kids are not getting the development that they need. And so what we do in RBI, we're in the process of, and a lot of people who are on this call don't know this, but we're in the process of trying to build a facility in partnership with Macy's and Dr. Lehman and a few others, where we can provide the tutoring from 12 on up. Because I think if you can get them at 12, you can develop them to get to 14, 15. there's a gap between 14 and 15 that young Black kids are being lost. You know, you have park ball and the moms, no disrespect, the families at T-ball up to 8 or 9, all their kids are going to be pros one day. So all of a sudden, once you get past 12 and you get to 13 and 14 and the bases are 90 feet, the pitching mound is 60 feet, 6 inches, and you can't just take off running anytime you want to because you can't outrun the ball. If you don't understand the game, you start getting out a lot, striking out a lot, and they go to football and basketball because that's an athletic game enhanced by skill. Baseball is a skill game enhanced by athleticism. So if they're not getting the skills, then they don't have the ability to play the game. Bert and I thank God for Bert coming here from Oakland. Bert has been a godsend in working with the hitters. And, you know, Robert Mitchell and Ron Smith, I say their names over and over. I learned the game from guys like that and my father. So we teach the game, hands on the infield, getting the step on the outfield, running through the catch, all those little things that people don't think of that you have to know in playing this game. And so we've had the pleasure in RBI over the last 10 years to see with Marquise Grissom, Sean Livesey, and many others working with me. We've had the pleasure of seeing 27 kids go into the major leagues. Kyle Lewis, the American League Player of the Year, played for me for 3 years. Curtis Terry, the top player in the Texas Rangers organization, played for me for 3 years. Michael Harris played for Robert Mitchell's son and me for 2 years before I had to fight Major League Baseball to give him an opportunity in Breakthrough Series. And you can talk to the Major League Baseball Breakthrough leader, I think his name, what's his name, Bert? I forget his name. But he tells me every time, if it wasn't for you fighting for Michael Harris, he said, we'd have never known him. And he is the prototype, the poster child for RBI. And now he is the Braves' #1 prospect and will probably be in the major leagues, if not the end of next summer. And my point behind that is, it is not too late for brothers like you, for us, but we have to have our own facilities. The unfortunate part is, and no disrespect for Marquise Grissom, CJ Stewart, and some of these other guys, but they open these facilities and they're profit centers. And so it's about them making money. And so I've been able to, right now, I'm in the process of partnering with Macy's to be able to open up a center that's going to be affordable for all kids. I fought really hard in the community to try to make this happen. Now, in fairness to them, my livelihood is through CBS television. You know, I didn't make it in major leagues. I got cut by the Pirates in '86. But for me, Bill Lucas actually signed me with the Braves after playing with the Atlanta Cardinals. And I turned it down because I had a baby on the way and a house being built. And it was at the point where I couldn't go to rookie ball making $600 a month when I was making $750 a week driving a truck. So I made a decision. But I know that the opportunity is still there for our kids. But we have to, as Bert says, as Robert Mitchell says, we have to provide leadership and skill development at an early age so that these kids can learn the game, and then the athleticism will kick in. And so we're doing that. And I might be knocking on some of you guys' doors to help me down the road. I pray God that you continue to live strong and healthy lives, because I know you're not spring chickens. So, because I need y'all. And, you know, it's some of the best baseball minds that I've ever been around that's on this call right now. And if I can pull this off, praise God, and the opportunity presents itself, you know, we want to make it possible that these kids can come in here and train at little or nothing and almost free for most of them. Because if we can do that, then we're not going to need them to pull back numbers from the Negro Leagues. We're going to have kids knocking down the doors because they got the ability. They just need to learn the skill. And it's not too late. And this call is very important for you guys to know that there are people on the street right now, including myself, that are still trying to make a difference in our community. And I think at the end of the day, when you can lay your head down and know that you help somebody, that the God that we all serve will say, job well done.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on
Phil,
that if I
yeah,
could.
Phil, come on in, Phil.
Yeah, you know, I don't talk about it much, but I coached for 35 years at all different levels. And one of the things that I did, even at the youngest level, was I had to get children to begin to love the game. And I know for me, when I grew up, you know, even though I collected baseball cards, I knew all the great players. You know, I lived in an American League town. I could go down to the park, which I did. I could see big league guys. The people that inspired me the most were ball players who were teenagers in my own community that I could watch play in the local park. And, you know, people like Herman Randall, he ended up going to Alcorn, or Kitty Cat, first baseman, who ended up going to Grambling. Those were my stars. But for me, training kids, I had to get kids to begin to love the game, even at a 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old age. And then when they became teenagers, I noticed that a lot of coaches were discouraging players as they get around 10 age limit. And I always tell my coaches, one of the things I always did, I said, these players are not stupid. So you would have maybe your best players, you start them off, and then say maybe the 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that, going to go 7 innings. You put in your subs. People didn't always like being a sub, even though they weren't the best player on the team. So what I would do is, a guy say he's a sub tonight, I would say it doesn't make a difference if I put him in the 7th inning or if I had him start the game, because I'm going to substitute him. But he could also begin to get some pride because I'm a starter. He tell his friends that he's going to be starting tomorrow. All of a sudden, it just changed the ball player's complete attitude. But because I'm going to put him in the game because that's what's required. But where I placed him in the game determined how I could change his thinking. And so I had little tricks like that I used. But the earlier you start a baseball player, if you can get them to truly love this game and take it as a challenge, I think that we would develop more ball players. But definitely, I agree with you that you got to start younger. And I was pretty excited to hear what Bert said today, that he was talking about change of pace. Most people are still teaching that it's a grip. And, you know, I learned a long time ago, you got to drag that foot. When I heard him say it, I knew that's a baseball coach right there, because everybody doesn't know that. And so anyway, that's the success I had. And over the years, I had 35 years into it. The best ball player I ever had, he didn't make it to the big leagues, is a baseball player, but he did make it to the San Diego Chargers. His name was Darryl Stuckey. He was a safety for the Chargers.
Wow.
Darn good baseball player. And then one other thing I might mention, you know, Oakland, I know you guys talked about Oakland and all the players that, you know, we know that made it to the big leagues. But when I first started doing research on the Negro Leagues, I ran across a guy named Floyd Cranston. And matter of fact, he died on the Alameda Freeway, had a heart attack. And there was another guy, his name was Willie Mays. He went by Tat Mays. He was out of Kansas, but he was an umpire out there. I don't know if you ever ran into him. And there was one other guy, his name was, hold on a second, I wrote it down when I was thinking about it.
I know Tat Mays.
His name was Tudaberry. And they were all from this part of the country, and they ended up out in Oakland involved in baseball.
Wow.
You guys knew these people. And of course, in the first Color World Series, what they called it back then, there was a guy named Yellow Horse Morris, who also played with the Oakland Pierce Giants out in Oakland. So yeah, Oakland has a legacy there. But once again, even like the gentleman talking about relief pitching, the first successful manager to have relief pitchers was Rube Foster in 1909, 1910. If you don't know it, you can't talk about it. You think that maybe it started later, but actually Rube Foster, a baseball genius, was doing that in 1910, and I've written about it before as well.
Wow.
Let me ask Bob. Hold on. Let me ask Bob. What about your press conference yesterday, Bob? Bring us up to date on your press conference, because that's very important. Tell us about your press conference. Unmute yourself.
I fell asleep. It was an exciting day for us yesterday. You know, yesterday marked the 101st anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, formed right here in Kansas City. As a matter of fact, just around the corner from where the museum operates, the Purcell YMCA. And so last year, of course, with it being the 100th anniversary, We had such grandiose plans, and many of them were kind of derailed because of the pandemic, although we still were able to orchestrate a quite successful 100-year celebration. So we continued and just rolled this thing over into what we now call Negro Leagues 101. And so not only are we celebrating the anniversary, but we're also launching what will be a national educational initiative. You know, it has always been my belief that it wasn't a time that people didn't want to know about the Negro Leagues. They simply had no way to know about the Negro Leagues. You know, Phil has been doing this for a long time, but it just hadn't gotten the mainstream looks that it deserved. And so we've got to get this history in front of people, because the history is so valuable, not just for its educational sake, but its inspirational value. And as I look and listen to all of you all who have contributed so greatly to this game, I mean, every one of you have contributed greatly to this game. You've enabled other kids, and Phil talked about falling in love with this game, being nurtured in this game, growing in this sport. We think we play an important role too, because what we allow them to do is see themselves in this game. They come to the Negro Leagues Museum and they see people who look just like them, who played this game as well as anybody ever played this game. And guys, not only did they play the game, Phil just mentioned it, they own teams. They were managers, and they were traveling secretaries. They were team physicians. They fulfilled every role you could fulfill in the business of the game of baseball. So you didn't have to worry about whether or not somebody else had to make a decision about that talent, because we were making that decision about that talent. And so, you know, when it got to the major leagues, that guy, that brother who was right there and could have gotten a nod, more times than not, didn't get the nod. But anyway, for yesterday, for us, we not only announced the educational initiative, but we also announced 3 major acquisitions for the museum. The collection of the late, great actress director, Penny Marshall. Penny Marshall bequeathed her Negro Leagues collection to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, which was a tremendous gesture from her. We knew that she was a baseball fan. I did not know that she had been collecting Negro League stuff until after her passing. And the estate then contacted us to let us know that she had left her collection to us. A rare Bud Fowler handwritten letter. And I know Phil can expound on the importance of Bud Fowler, a 19th century ball player. And then the collection of a Seattle collector by the name of Jay Cardwell, which has some considerable memorabilia in it, including the financial journal of the great Rube Foster from the Negro National League from 1920 until 1925. And that piece in particular is important, because while we sometimes, and I can understand why we do, fall in love with the romantic nature of these incredible ball players who overcame tremendous social adversity to play the game they love, we sometimes lose sight that this was big business. This was big business. Negro League Baseball was big business. And this journal, I mean, meticulously details virtually every transaction that occurred as related to the Negro National League from 1920 until 1925. And it also acknowledges the fact that Rube Foster and his genius was getting paid handsomely, because Rube was getting 5% of everything that was coming in. And so for us, it's almost the holy grail of Negro Leagues memorabilia. And so we got it last year. And man, I was just determined that I wasn't going to let it get away. And we were able to secure that now for the permanent collection of the Negro Leagues. And now we can kind of continue to tout the business aspect of Black baseball. And I tell people all the time, the fundamental difference between the Negro Leagues and Major League, man, was simply money. The Major Leagues had more money than the Negro League. They had their own stadiums. But when we start talking about talent, there's no difference talent-wise. If there's anything, is what you guys said earlier, the talent was likely better in the Negro Leagues. You know, when you start looking at what took place, and one of my favorite factoids as it relates to the Negro Leagues and the impact that the Negro Leagues had, from 1949 to 1959, 9 of 11 National League MVPs were former Negro League stars. And
Wow.
we're not even counting rookies of the year. These are MVPs. And as Phil can attest, the American League was just slow bringing Black players in, or it would have been more on the American League side too. But the late Bob Gibson, God bless his soul, said that they thought the American League was a place where old ball players went to die.
Maggie, we running out of time, Maggie. I want you to chip in here and answer Phil or Bob a question about what's the future hold here.
Well, one of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago was the financial aspects of it and how much Major League Baseball was going to do with it. And Bob and I were talking about it yesterday. And as I said then, I said the door can swing a lot wider now that they're inside. We, all of us that were on that call that day, we were pretty mad that, Major League Baseball hadn't really stepped up. Mm-hmm. But you can't get the money if you're not there to receive it. And I think Bob, people like Phil and all you baseball players out here are now ready to receive. I want Bob to talk just briefly about that.
Yeah, and you're right, Maggie. It's my job, and it's the job of the Negro League Baseball Museum now to not to allow Major League Baseball, and I shouldn't say allow, but the fact that Major League Baseball has essentially washed its sins. That's what happened in December when it made the acknowledgement, the atonement, the reckoning of what it was doing to basically say, we see you in the Negro Leagues. And I think it makes the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum more important now than ever before. And so it is my job to help them understand that we need to have the same kind of support and relationship that you have with the National Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. The story of the Negro Leagues has to continue to live on. And the players won't be there. We're losing the players at an alarming rate. But again, we knew that, Phil, when you started this thing back in 1990, that it was going to literally be a race against time. The people who made the history, it wasn't a matter of if, it was simply a matter of when they were all going to be gone. The people who even saw them play, we were going to lose them. So we cannot allow the legacy of the Negro Leagues to die. Because the story is too profound, it is too powerful, too compelling, too inspirational to allow that to happen. And so baseball, and I do think, Maggie, that we will see that. The relationship between Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball's Players Association as it relates to the Negro Leagues Museum is continuing to grow. And we just got to continue to nurture that relationship, and hopefully we'll be able to convince that we need that same level of support so that we can keep this history alive, but more importantly, the life lessons that stem from this story. And those are more important right now for sure than ever before.
Phil, take 60 seconds, Phil. We're all gonna get out of here. 60 seconds. Phil, go ahead. Elaborate on that. Phil? Mm-hmm.
Please, I'm always amazed that, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is new. I know the Negro League Financial Ledger. I got 19, maybe 88. Doris Foster called me and she said, "Hey, look, I found something in the house. You come get it, make a copy of it." And so I made a copy of the Negro League Financial Ledger that you guys have now. And I've been touting that information. But the thing is, people don't know I had it. So the thing is, a lot of the history that we're talking about, we do need to preserve. But I think we also need to go back and read the books and, get a better understanding of what it is, this history that's there. And because a lot of this history has been written about, but people aren't going back and looking at the scholarship that's there. So I would encourage people, hey, like always, if you want to know about the Negro Leagues, you don't have to start right now with saying there's nothing there. You can go back, there's been some pretty good books written, and start there. And I know I plan on getting Al's book, the Strange book, because, hey, I'm still a student. After I think I started getting the first baseball cards, the first pictures related to the Negro Leagues, believe it or not, in 1977. And so I'm still a student and I'm still learning. And you know, it's just an amazing history. And so I'm glad we were able to talk about it today. And when I saw Von Joshua on there, I said, man, I remember that guy. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I didn't know where he was, but now I'm ready to talk to him. But you know,
it's a pleasure to meet you via this digital format, man. I always enjoyed watching you play.
You know, one thing I'm noticing about everybody that's on here, African American.
Yeah,
that's unique in these days and time to be.
We gotta get out of here, but I want to ask you guys one thing since I got you all here. I've been touting, of course, Curtis, as my man called him, Kirk Flood. I've been on that fight for 30 years, man. 30 years. We got Kirk Flood belonging there, Maury Wills belonging there, and I'm gonna move over to football, Johnny Sample. Why are not these guys in the Hall of Fame, man? Why is it that we got brothers sitting in positions on CBS, on CNN, on ESPN, and nobody is supporting these guys? They deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, man. And that's one thing that we should be on top of. Look, I was on AM radio, 1972, with Inside Sports, and nothing but AM radio. But I campaigned, got Earl Lloyd into the NBA Hall of Fame. I campaigned and got Willie Wood into the Hall of Fame. What the hell is the rest of these guys doing on national television and never bring up Kirk Flood? They just keep going in the Hall of Fame. They act like they're not even there. Bob, address that before we get out of here, because I know we got to get out of here.
Yeah, no, but you get no argument from me. We've made the case too that Kirk Flood should absolutely be in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. We believe that Minnie Minoso should be in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And that's before I even get to my friend, because I'm biased. He's my friend. The late, great Buck O'Neill should be in the baseball.
Yeah, my man,
Kirk Flood should absolutely be in the National Baseball Hall. Kirk Flood did as much for the game of baseball as anyone, and he was a great player before he got banned from the major leagues. And so, yeah, he should absolutely be in there. And I hope that we can collectively continue that fight for Kirk Flood to be recognized and put in his proper perspective.
Dick Allen also.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy.
I want to thank Gary Johnson. I want to thank Maggie. I want to thank, of course, John Hollins, Bob, man, Phil. Thank all you guys, man. But, you know, I want to say one thing. I want to say Al, the twins, the brothers, thank all you guys for this format, man. This was a very fantastic format. But I want to say one thing. In November, I will be married 53 years to this lady here on my left. You understand? 53
Get on the screen.
This is a ring that she lost about 10 years ago, and I happened to find it. And I went there and the stone was missing. But I said, this is a great Valentine's Day for my wife, Hattie. I know you guys can see her, but she is the Valentine's Day girl 54 years later. And I want to thank everybody, Al, Bert, John, Bob, and of course, Gary, Robert Mitchell. Man, just thank everybody, man, for this great format. And let's stay in touch, man, because if we network, they can't stop us. They keep us away from each other. That's the key, man. Thank you for supporting Speak the Truth, man, and Zoom Sunday. Until next time, I want you to remember this. No, Maggie's birthday. I told her it was your birthday. That's the only reason she came on. I told her it was your birthday.
Birthday's not until October, but October 2nd, in case anybody wants to write it down. And by the way, Al's got his book, The Jersey Up, and Michael's got his book, 18th and Vine. And if you've never been to 18th and Vine in Kansas City, you need to go, because the Blue Room is down there and it's live. Well, I don't know so much now during COVID, but every Friday, starting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that is the best place in Kansas City for a good time. Live music and drinks and people from everywhere. 18th and Vine.
I want to say one thing, guys. One thing that's
Al, the Jersey.
In order to soar with eagles, you cannot hang around chickens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gone. Thanks, Gary Johnson. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Take care.
Hi, Hattie. Love
Hi,
y'all.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
for joining
everybody.
us.
Hi, I'm Harold Bell. My wife Hattie and I founded a nonprofit organization in 1968, shortly after the riots that almost destroyed my hometown, Washington, D.C. The program caters to the needs of at-risk children as it relates to social services such as education, law enforcement, drug abuse, gang-related violence, and other antisocial behaviors.